Hey, this is Banzai. Today we're going to talk about the camera industry again, in this case, getting less for more or around the same price. I've been seeing this a lot lately with camera releases, and it's kind of concerning. I know that the whole industry is going down with unit sales, so maybe they're trying to get more per sale. I'm not really sure how it's working out, but we see cameras like the Nikon D7500. Now, it did have an improvement in the physical construction, the ruggedness of the camera compared to previous 7000 series cameras, but it also lost the 2 card slots. Now that's kind of concerning because they've been doing that more with their mirrorless as well. They released the first mirrorless of the Z and also the EOS R and the RP, but they removed the card slots from there. Of course, that's just one big large feature that's easy to notice. In other situations, Canon especially has been removing features. We have the SL3, which has the removal of the center pin from the flash hotshoe. So I have this XT16 trigger from Godox. It has one single pin. It doesn't have any of the special features, but it's nice and it works well. It's consistent. In this case, I could not use this with the SL3. Same thing for the TT600 flash. If I wanted to put it on that camera, it's just not going to work. There's no physical way for it to work. Of course, it's an entry-level camera, but I would expect the Canon EOS M50 replacement, if that ever comes, that it will probably not have that center pin on the hotshoe, because it's kind of the same level as the SL3. Another big thing that we saw is the removal of 24 frames a second 1080p in the EOS RP from Canon, and also in the SL3. It's just that they're removing features. I'm not sure if it's a cost savings thing and they're just trying to make their consumer cameras very consumer camera-esque. But if someone is already in the DSLRs and they have a certain feature set, they don't want to really lose anything in the process going to mirrorless. So with the Z cameras from Nikon, for example, I had the D750 and the D600 full frame DSLRs. They had the dual card slots, both of them, even the D600. I was considering the Z cameras going to that system, but when they released the Z7 first, of course that's the more expensive one, there was no way I was going to get that. And then they eventually released the Z6. I really do like the Z6. I'll probably make a video about hybrid photography, videography, and I think that camera is really good for that, but it does miss some features also related to the frames per second and the continuous shooting, which I don't do a ton of, but I really don't want to take a step down, or at the time I really didn't want to take that step down from the D750 to the Z6 in some aspects. Of course, it has the mirrorless functions, features, all the benefits that you get with mirrorless, but I'm not sure if they're just kind of in a transitionary period or it is related to unit sales. They want to get as much possible out of each sale of camera. Maybe they're really going towards that paper printing industry where you buy a cheap printer and then you have to buy the ink or the toner cartridges for a high price. So in the printing, it would be third-party toner, third-party ink, but in the camera world, it will be flash. With Canon, they remove that pin. So they say, yeah, you have to use our flash now, or get some type of third-party flash. Of course, there will be some that will work with that system most likely, or already do, but you can't have the low-cost, cheap ones with that simple pin in there. Do you think it's going to keep going this way, where camera companies will exclude features and things that we potentially had in the past with other cameras, that just take them out, kind of save a little bit of cost in the process, or make it more difficult to use something third party? Do you think it's going to go more that direction, or do you think eventually we'll see more featured cameras, we'll see lenses that are lower cost like the f1.8 primes? Anyways, feel free to post a comment if you have any opinions on the subject. It's pretty interesting to see where it goes. Of course, the main goal is just to get a camera that works really well for you. What I did was just go as cheap as possible with these Canon EOS M50s. They do have, of course, the single card slot, but they're cheap. I kind of removed the idea of doing any type of professional stuff with my cameras at the moment. Maybe it'll change in the future, or hopefully it'll change in the future. We'll see. Anyways, Scott Photography Banzai. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please consider subscribing. That helps me out a lot. Likes and shares. help out a lot as well. Thanks again.